Welcome to another edition of Discover Tinley, where we highlight the people and organizations of Tinley Park that make our town a great place in which to live. And as we know, it's a pretty great place in which to live. My name's Ron Centanni. I'll be your host today with the program. And as usual, brought to you through the volunteer services of the Community Resources Commission, along with our high school and adult volunteers too. It's all volunteer efforts putting on this program every month, this program and the Chamber program. So we thank the volunteers for coming out and spending time doing this. Program is going on every month, and we got a lot of things coming up. Spring is coming. Hopefully spring is coming. Of course, March is, of course, opening of spring training in baseball. So we know spring must be close at hand. And spring is also a good time of the year for us to start getting out and do things in town here. And one of the things happening in the spring and March, and one of our programs, the Community Resources Commission, is our annual scholarship program, where we honor some high school students who have done some very fantastic academic and extracurricular work, but especially community service. The scholarships really highlight community service. And so we're looking for some good quality high school students to apply. The applications have been sent to your local high schools. And if you want to get one, they're also at the Village Hall. So if you know of anybody that qualifies, that's a pretty good student and done some good community service, tell them to qualify or apply for one of these scholarships. So far, we're handing out at least 4, and we may have more $1,000 scholarships. So again, the Community Resources Commission does this every year. We encourage you to, if you know anybody that qualifies, get those applications in. So a good $1,000 will help towards college, vocational school, whatever program they want to go into after high school. So the scholarship program deadline is April 1st. So get those scholarships in. And the other program that the Community Resources does, and we just got done doing it in February, is the Youth in Government program, where we have students from Lincoln Way High School, Tinley Park High School, and Andrew High School, counterpart with the village officials. And they go through and find out what the officials do and see how our village government operates from the local level. It's kind of neat to see these young people get a first-hand view of how our town operates and the local elected and appointed officials. So that happened during the month of February. It usually does every year. So those are a couple of programs the Community Resources Commission has going every year. One other thing, our first guest today is also one of the commission members, actually the chairman, one of our more outstanding commissions in town here. Tinley Park has been very good for our veterans, and very nice to have any veteran programs. And one of the organization that really has a lot to do with bringing those around is the Veterans Commission. And we have with us today the chairman of the Veterans Commission, Wiley Roberts. Wiley, welcome to Discover Tinley.
Thank you, Ron.
Chairman, and how long have you been chairman now?
15 years now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I started on the commission immediately after I came back from Iraq the first time. I was in An-Nasiriyah, Iraq, and that was back in 2003.
Now you're the Air Force, right?
I was in the Air Force Reserve, and I started my career and ended my career as a nurse in an ASTS, which is Air Medical Staging Squadron. Mm-hmm. So what we would do is take injured soldiers off the battlefield and stabilize them for their first flight out of country, and we'd get them to the next echelon of care. And we made sure that they were good for altitude and everything. We had to know all that kind of good scientific stuff. So me being a nurse for so many years, it kind of played right into it. So when I joined the military, I did after Gulf One.
Oh.
Now, I didn't get deployed in Gulf One, but I ended up joining, and I joined an ASTS. So that was my entire career was in that field. And it really did pay off, because I got very good at what I was doing, and I was able to share those experiences with younger troops and pass those lessons on. But when I was over in Iraq in 2003, I ended up getting a care package, and I got it from Tinley Park. And all of my buddies that were deployed with me said, you know, we get these small little packages. This thing's huge, and you got so much stuff in there. How did you get? I said, that's because I live in Tinley Park. And when I came back, I wanted to thank everybody, and they threw me a welcome home party. And at that time, it was Mayor Zabrocki was the mayor at the time, and they threw me a party, and I invited all my friends and family and some of my coworkers. Because I was in the reserves, I still had my civilian career as an operating room nurse.
Oh,
so
right. Where were you at for that?
At Rush University
okay.
Hospital downtown.
Okay.
And they got to attend, and I thought to myself, you know, I got to give something back. So I decided to join the commission, and I did as a basic commissioner, and I joined with Norm Peslin, who currently is my secretary on the commission. So we joined on the same day, and we were inducted into the commission. And it just so happens that 2 years later, the chairman had resigned, and at the time our village clerk was retired Brigadier General Pat Ray, and the general gave me a call and said, you know, Major Roberts, you'd be perfect for this job. And I thought, yes, sir.
Yes, sir, General.
So I knew that I knew how to follow orders.
Okay.
So, and he said, it won't take up too much of your time. All you have to do is dedicate so much time to the process. And he says, I think you'll enjoy it. And he was right about the enjoying, but it does take a little effort, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But I was enthusiastic about being able to make a contribution, and I became chairman. And I went through a bunch of mayors and a bunch of different people on my commission, but it's been extremely rewarding.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what's the mission of the Veterans Commission? What is your main goals to accomplish?
Right. The mission was created at its inception to go ahead and honor veterans and bring to the community the stories and to popularize the veterans and how they contribute to our community, all the efforts that they do, and how they keep on giving. I noticed that veterans like yourself and myself and other military members that you may know in other commissions and on village boards, they've served, and we need to recognize that effort and to honor their service as well as their contributions to the village as well.
Wow. Well, you do a fantastic job. You've got a lot of programs involved. Your two main let's talk about your two main programs every year that you always conduct around the holidays.
Right. Memorial Day and Veterans Day. And the nice thing that we do is we ask the local bands to go ahead and perform at those. On Memorial Day, we always have Andrew High School, and Central Middle School does our Veterans Day program, and they provide patriotic music for that. And we always begin our programs with a half an hour of their playing, and they're excellent. And in my younger days, I was a professional musician.
Oh, I didn't know that.
From age 14 through, let's see, when did I get married? 26.
Oh, my.
And so the problem is I have perfect pitch. But the young men and women of these two bands, they play very well, and it's a pleasure to my ears to listen to them. So, but they do a very nice job. And we also have all of the different service organizations that are not only contributing to those programs, but they also have positions on the commission. So we represent all the service organizations in town: the VFW, the American Legion, the Submariner Group, the Marine Corps League, Korean War Vets, Military Order of the Purple Heart.
Wow.
We've got everybody involved. And my father was a submariner in World War II. Oh, my. And my grandfather served in World War I in Below Woods. He was in the Army. My brother joined the Army. He was during Vietnam. My Uncle Jack was a paratrooper. He was the last man standing of the 101st Airborne Rock that landed on Corregidor in World War II. And when I went to Iraq the first time, I ended up having a bunch of American flags flown in honor of my family and friends. And I had one flown for Tinley Park as well. Oh, wow. And occasionally when we don't have an American flag in order to do our Pledge of Allegiance, which we do before every meeting. I pulled that flag out and we used that.
Oh.
So it kind of played right
Beautiful.
into it. Yeah.
Beautiful, wow. Yeah, I know, I always go to those Memorial Day and Veterans Day ceremonies. It's quite a ceremony. If you ever get a chance to go to those things, I would go. They're very impressive, very emotional sometimes, and very honorable and what they do for the programs there. So I know, I'd say some communities have, but not everybody has those programs, and especially as elaborate as ours is. So.
Well, I'll say that on all the years that I've been the chairman of the commission, we've made an effort to go ahead and honor various conflicts, and we usually have a certain group or a certain subcategory of veteran that we like to honor, and we've done. Actually, we did World War II, the very first one. We did Korea. And then somebody brought to my attention, we need to do the Cold War.
Oh, yeah.
And so we actually had a submariner who worked in the North Atlantic, which was kind of interesting, and all of his efforts. Okay. And Vietnam, of course, and Gulf War. And we also honored the women in the military. We had a beautiful woman who actually was in the Army and the Air Force.
Oh my.
And she was working with General Eisenhower at the time.
Oh my goodness.
In France, and she was a rather unique speaker. But we've had a number of different honorees that have helped support us during the Memorial and Veterans Day programs.
Talk about where that's located. Where do you hold those ceremonies at? That's a pretty special place in town here.
Yes, actually, we had that dedicated during my tenure, which was the Brigadier General Patrick Ray Veterans Plaza, which is on the south side of the 80th Avenue train station. And there for a while, we had to worry about the weather, and then all of a sudden it became less of an issue because we ended up getting a tent. Oh, yeah. And then we had to work with the Public Works people so that we could get positions placed inside the asphalt where we could put the poles of the tents so that they don't blow away. When we started, it was 50-gallon rain barrels that were just holding down those poles. And sometimes they were effective. But at the plaza, you'll notice as you walk down the stairs, there's a semicircle with benches there that are in support of every one of the service organizations in town. So each of the service organizations purchased a bench. They had those built. And then to the right of that area, as you're walking between the semicircle and the public library, you'll notice there's a Heroes Walk, and that has a number of monuments where we've divided the Heroes Walk into the different services, so that if you wanted to purchase a brick to honor one of the veterans in your family, you could go ahead and do so, and then we take that brick and we place it on the Heroes Walk in their section, so Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard, and we make sure that they're honored in that way. Each of the monuments, the black stone monuments, that it's inscribed with the hymn and the motto for each of the services. And then each one has a large hole that's all the way through the monument. And that's in order to remember our POW MIAs. So everything has a meaning.
Very beautiful, right? Yeah, it's pretty impressive seeing that walkway with all those names and everything carved into those stones. And I'd highly encourage, if you know a veteran in town that doesn't have that brick on there already, now how do they go about getting that brick made?
Right, we have on our website on tinleypark.org, and if you go under government and pull up commissions, you can pull up the Veterans Commission, and we have the application form there, and also you can fill that out, and if you feel the urge to, we've just started a new program, which is a Veterans Banner program. As you drive around Illinois, you might see different communities that have these banners up that honor their veterans. So that's another way that you and your family can honor your veteran and your family. we have to limit the banners to Tinley residents.
Oh, okay.
Or you can be from another community, but you have to be serving on one of our service organizations in the village. So if you're a member of the local American Legion or the VFW or any of the other service organizations, even though you live outside the village, you can have a banner created for you.
Okay.
But the bricks on the Heroes Walk are open to everyone, because if you end up riding the Metro train and you just happen to get off at Tinley, you can get a brick for your loved one on the Heroes Walk.
And those banners are going to go up different places in town, and they're going to.
Right.
I think I saw a picture of it. When you go to the picture of somebody, the individual they're honoring is on the banner with some other information on there.
Right. When you're submitting for a banner for your veteran, they ask for a picture, and on the application, which is found in the same area on our website, you submit a picture, and it has to be a certain quality and clarity for them to make the banner, because they blow it up. But you also have the service that they served in, and the unit that they were attached to, and it's a real nice way of recognizing their service.
Wow.
Now those banners will be displayed all up and down Veterans Parkway, and Veterans Parkway starts at Timber Drive, next to the southernmost parking lot for Metro, and it winds around past the ball fields and the sports complex, just adjacent to where the Howe property was, and it empties out down on 183rd. So we have a number of light poles that are there that we can attach those to. If you've ever driven up and down that road, you'll see American flags that are on each of those poles. But in addition to that, we'll have those banners that are created for your loved one. Also, we recently rededicated Veterans Park in Bremen town,
right.
and that was redesigned by the Park District, and we were honored to go ahead and reopen and rededicate Veterans Park because previously there was a Veterans Memorial there which honored various conflicts, and we had those original stones incorporated into the new design. So now that plaza and the light poles around there can be used for veterans banners.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, talking about Veterans Parkway, you've got something in the plans for what we're going to add to Veterans Parkway.
Yes.
What have you got plans for something to add to Veterans Parkway? And that's one of the reasons I wanted you in the program today to talk about this new addition.
Right. Years ago, when we first opened Veterans Parkway and named it, it was under Mayor Zabrocki, and we had our blue and gold star memorials that were created, and that was in order to, a blue star memorial is recognizing a family who has a loved one who's deployed, and a gold star banner is for someone who was killed in action. But we made a promise back then, and we were always good for our promises, and we decided that we were going to populate Veterans Parkway with static displays. And one of those issues was an M84 mortar carrier, and it was a piece of track vehicle that's used in the military, or was used in the military, during the Libyan and the Vietnam conflicts. And we were able to get our hands on one because the VFW requested it through TACCOM, which is the official agency that distributes those kind of pieces. I'm sure you've driven past VFWs or American Legions, and they have cannons outside, or howitzers or whatever, or tanks and jeeps and whatever. But we ended up with a mortar carrier.
Okay.
And it was positioned up in Capron, Illinois, because that American Legion post ended up dissolving. So they had this piece on their property, and they didn't know what to do with it. So it went into a bit of disrepair, which means that we have to correct those things before we put it on display on our Veterans Parkway. So when you first request those pieces through TACCOM, you have to back it up. You have to make sure that the village agrees that you can use the land for that purpose. And then you have to do a site selection. And then you have to end up backing it up with a certain dollar amount.
Oops.
Because if it's never been displayed before, you want to make sure that it's demilitarized, so you can never fire it, and it can't it can't hurt anyone, and that all the doors and hatches are welded shut so that no one can access the inside because it's too much of a danger. So all of those things have to be accomplished. So there's a certain amount of money that you have to put up on the front end to make sure that they know you're serious and you want to cover that.
Wow.
So we went for the minimal. We went for $10,000.
Okay.
So we had to request that through the trustees at the village, and because we're very frugal, they approved it.
Oh.
And so we had $10,000 in our pocket, and I ended up getting a lot of what we did donated so far. We had Ozinga, who donated all the concrete. We had.
Because you got to put a pad.
You have to put a pad, and the pad has to be a certain depth and size to accommodate the piece that you're getting.
Right.
And that's described by TACCOM when they send you the release.
Okay.
So ours had to be 10 by 15 and a certain depth with a certain amount of compacted gravel and reinforcing rod. And I had the hole dug and the reinforcing rod and the gravel all donated by Public Works.
Oh my.
And like I said, the concrete was donated by Ozinga, and there was a concrete contractor who had to supervise all those efforts, and Chip and his crew, he donated his time, but he had to pay his workers, of course.
Okay.
So now, so far, we had the pad placed, created, and it's ready to go, and so far out of the $10,000 I've spent, $700.
Oh my!
So
you're doing pretty good, Wiley.
I thought that was really good
That's
until
very good.
I found out that once we still have to transport it down from Capron.
Oh.
So Capron, Illinois, up by Rockford. So now the VFW was good enough to have some friends who have a crane and a lowboy, and they're able to go up and get that and retrieve it for us. But they're going to donate their services as well.
Wow.
Now, the painting.
Oops.
Now that's where we get into a little problem, because when they originally painted these pieces, they used lead paint.
Oh, yes.
And so to be environmentally friendly, it has to be disposed of correctly. So it becomes more of a process.
Okay.
So they have to power wash it, sandblast it, put 2 coats of epoxy primer on it, and then put a final coat of olive drab green on it, because that looks beautiful.
Of course.
And we did get the olive drab green paint donated.
Oh my.
So now we did okay there.
Okay.
But that process is going to cost us $16,500.
Oh my goodness.
So now we're in a program where we're going to start looking for donations, and anybody who wants to donate towards that to offset it. We already had some donations that we acquired from the Christmas happenings down in Tinley, and the community service group donated their collections for our efforts. So we thank them very much, and I'd like to thank everybody who's donated so far. Once we get that piece brought down to crown painting, where they're going to do all this paint work, he says he needs about a week and a half, and it'll be ready.
Oh my.
So I'm looking.
Yeah, what are you looking at?
Well, we have to get final blessings and approval from TACCOM, because it's going up their chain.
Okay.
But we've got all of our I's dotted and T's crossed.
Okay.
And everything's in order. So now we're looking at being able to get it painted, and once it is, we're going to have a wonderful ceremony and a dedication by the mayor and everyone involved.
Yeah. An idea what you're aiming for, at least what you're hoping for to?
I'd love to do it by Memorial Day, and you know what?
All right.
Always have a plan, but always have a plan B.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
But whenever it goes in, we plan on having a good celebration, and we're going to honor everybody in town, and especially our Vietnam vets who we're recognizing with this piece.
Oh, okay.
We have other future plans about possibly a howitzer, and possibly a tank, and possibly an aircraft.
I was going to say, you better mention an aircraft, and so we need to get the airplanes in there someplace.
Absolutely. And if you're in the Navy and you know where I can pick up an anchor, get a hold of us.
Oh my! I thought about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Holy cow!
But within the commission, we've had a number of. Unfortunately, we've had some losses as well. Our good friend Colleen Simon, she passed, and there are other people who have other family issues, and they have to step down from the commission. Other people move out of town. So if you're a veteran and you live in Tinley, then just go ahead and submit your application to become a commission member.
There you go.
And you'll be able to give back to the community just like I and you have.
Wow. Well, tremendous. Hopefully it gets more people involved. Now, we got about a minute left. I want to talk to you about this art in public buildings. If you can get, in about a minute, talk about how you do that.
Sure. Art in public buildings, what we've done is that particular portion of our commission, we end up looking for artwork that displays how the military interacts with the community. And like we had a piece that was given and presented to the fire department. So we had a military fire brigade that was depicted on the painting that we gave them. And since we have Life Amplified now in Tinley, we decided to go with music. And I was actually stationed out of Scott Air Force Base, which is the home of the Band of Mid-America through the Air Force. And for the first time ever, they put together a collage, and it describes all the different bands, and we ended up presenting that to the Central Middle School for their efforts on our programs. And we have another one that we're planning on presenting on Memorial Day to our Andrew band that helps us out.
Oh my, okay, that'll be tremendous. So you're gonna have probably the art in just about every school in town, the main schools in town, and
absolutely. We also created a plaque for Andrew High School because they relocated their flagpole on their sports complex, and we had a plaque that honors veterans, and we had that placed on there. So.
Oh wow.
That's part of our art program as well.
Okay. Other than that, you aren't doing much, Wiley. I don't know. You guys are really going to town here with all these projects you got going.
It's easy when you have this to work with.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, I hope we can get that thing through, especially that motor carrier and the airplane. That would be nice.
Sure.
Sometime this year and get that thing. I think it'd be a neat addition to Tinley Park and the veterans display out there.
You bet.
So keep up the going there. Basically, we got about a minute left. When are your meeting dates and times?
We always meet on the second Wednesday of the month, and we're at the Halston Center, and we're right next door to you guys.
Right.
Your organization has the next conference room, but yeah, and we have 11 voting members, and then we have associate members. So if you don't want to become an active voting member, you can certainly be an associate and still be affiliated with us. We do Discover Tinley, parades, we do all of the above, and we also recognize all the efforts from our local service organizations.
Well, thanks for coming to Discover Tinley and talking out about the Veterans Commission, and we encourage you to join up and come to the programs. Excellent programs on Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Don't forget the scholarships program coming up April 1st. Thanks for watching Discover Tinley, and we'll see you next month.